Introduction. If you want to sell anything online, it's actually not all that hard. I know that this is kind of a surprise to a lot of people. Some affiliate marketers who have been struggling would swear up and down that making sales online is nearly impossible. Well, with the right traffic and the right sales materials, you are bound to generate sales from time to time. Closing a sale is not the problem. Generating consistent, high-value sales, that's the issue. Don't confuse the two. Sadly, even if you are able to master the art of online sales, you may still continue to struggle. I understand that this is better than not generating any sales at all, but if you put in a lot of time, effort, and energy into generating online sales, only to settle for a low, middling amount, you're wasting your time. That's the bottom line. As the old saying goes, either you go big or you go home. The name of the game when it comes to online sales success is return on effort. You heard that right. You've probably heard of the phrase return on investment millions of times before. Return on effort works on the same principle, but there is a slight difference. With return on investment, you are trying to invest as little money as possible while getting as much return as you can. Pretty straightforward, very simple concept. Similarly, if you're going to invest your time, attention, and focus in something, shouldn't you expect maximum rewards as well? This is the whole concept behind return on effort. If you work for yourself, it's very easy to work around the clock for chump change. Believe me, I've done it. It's not pretty. Sure, you're passionate about what you do. Oftentimes, it doesn't even feel like you're working. However, let me tell you, if you're going to invest your time, effort, and precious energy into something, don't you deserve to get the biggest reward out of all that investment? Thankfully, there is a way out. You don't have to stick to the grind. You don't have to put in all these hours away from your loved ones just so you can put food on the table. Using the high-ticket sales secrets that I'm going to share with you in this training, you will learn how to maximize the return that you get for all your efforts. It is not rocket science. It all boils down to being at the right place, talking about the right things at the right time with the right people. If you're able to line all those up, then you will get all the best results. At first, it may seem like this is very hard to set up. You only need to look at how high-ticket salespeople do it. When they started off, they were no better than you. In fact, in many cases, they knew less than you. Now, here they are, generating 7 or even 8-figure annual sales. How do they do it? It all boils down to high-ticket sales. Make sure you're in the right niche. Any discussion of high-ticket sales marketing must first begin with niche selection. Get this wrong, and you're going to waste your time, effort, and money. This is non-negotiable. If you make a mistake with the niche that you pick to build your business on, you're going to fail. The truth is, not all niches pay the same. Niches are essentially subject matter categories involving your target audience's problems, needs, or interests. These are different subjects and they attract different audiences. Some audiences are willing to pay a lot of money. Other audiences are not as willing. Even within the high-paying audiences, there is a question of timing. There are certain products and service categories that compel people to spend a lot of money right away. Unfortunately, these are relatively few. These are comparatively few when you line them up with all the other niches out there. Ideally, this is where you should be. You should look for niches that pay really well and people need to order merchandise or services almost immediately. The reality, most niches pay poorly. There, I said it. Most niches don't pay all that well. Well, this might rub you the wrong way. You might tell me that when you check Google's keyword planner tool, you notice that a lot of niches that you're interested in actually command fairly high PPC, pay-per-click figures. My answer is, look closer. If you pay attention to those figures, it turns out that, in many cases, for people to click on an ad that pays that much, they must be really, really interested already. In other words, they have been pre-qualified and they are ready to buy. That's usually not the case. Usually people are interested in a wide range of topics, but they're not ready to buy. They're ready to do a lot of research. They don't have a problem with comparing different sources of information, but when it comes to buying, they're not quite there. This is why I can say with utmost confidence that most niches pay poorly when you look at immediacy. It's not enough that people may pay good money for a particular range of merchandise or a particular type of service. That's not the issue. The issue is how willing they are to pay. Don't build your house on sand. To make matters worse, the best niches, high pay and high demand, tend to get saturated very quickly. It's easy to see why. You need to build your business on a solid foundation. This means that your target niche must be lucrative enough and must have a high sense of buyer urgency. Otherwise, you're building your house on sand. You can build tons of these and end up making very little money. Unless you want to play the volume game, where you are cranking out hundreds of websites, and each of these websites make, at best, a couple of dollars a day, you're going to have to be more careful about niche selection. You have to be systematic and methodical regarding the type of business you build and the platform you choose to convert your traffic. You also have to be systematic about getting the right kind of traffic and qualifying it so it is more likely to convert. All of this boils down to selecting the right niche. You must target the right client. In any kind of market, there will always be audience segmentation. It's easy to think that just because you are targeting insurance as a niche, you can automatically assume you will make a lot of money. On the surface, this seems very reasonable. After all, when you go to Google Keyword Planner tool and load up all sorts of insurance-related keywords, you get really high figures. It's not uncommon for an insurance-related term to pay $30 or more per click. What's not to love? But here's the problem. That market has many segments. Not everybody who looks for insurance online is ready to buy. Not everybody who is interested in buying an insurance policy is willing to pay top dollar. In fact, in many cases, a lot of people looking for insurance would rather pay the least amount of money or take out the cheapest type of policy possible. Welcome to the world of market segmentation. Audiences in what seem like lucrative niches have different needs. They tend to segment themselves. There are people who are willing to pay top dollar immediately. There are people who are willing to pay top dollar later on. There are people who are not willing to pay market rates and are always looking for a bargain, but they are willing to buy now. Finally, there are people who are very cheap and are willing to wait. Which of these audience members would it make sense for you to chase? This is not rocket science. It should be quite obvious. Always be aware of the differences between your target customers. Just because people are interested in the high-value niche you are targeting, it doesn't mean that all your visitors will convert. If this is your assumption, I would not be surprised if you continue to struggle. You're setting yourself up for a disappointment. You have to be aware of the differences between your audience members. And this is not just a simple matter of segmentation or being aware that this is going on. This must affect how you market using content and information online. People who are looking to pay top dollar immediately are looking for certain types of content. You have to address them a certain way. Different audiences need different marketing approaches. Otherwise, you may put yourself in the impossible situation of trying to convert a cheap customer with high-value material intended for top-tier customers. It all boils down to segmentation. This training is all about high-ticket sales. Accordingly, you have to be in the right high-value niche, and you must target people who will not hesitate to pay a lot of money almost immediately. This must be your mantra. This target audience must be your objective. If you are in any way unsure or unclear about this concept, you will end up sabotaging yourself. Your marketing content may not line up with the psychology of high-ticket customers. You end up dropping the ball. Your sales conversion funnel may send contradictory messages that try to appeal to different types of buyers in your niche. Again, when you send such confusing signals, people would end up confused. Let me tell you a simple truth about online sales. When consumers are confused, they can be relied on to do nothing. I've seen this happen a million times before. Somebody sees my advertising materials, they check out my content, they sign up for my mailing list, they get excited about my updates, and they keep coming back to my website. You may be thinking that this is a good thing. No, I see it for what it is. It is a problem. They keep coming back, but they never quite get the messaging that they're looking for. It's obvious that at some point they are ready to buy. They have built enough trust in my brand. That's not the issue. The issue is that among these many different contact points, there are contradictory messages. They can't quite put their finger on it. This is why they're still on the fence. The sad situation I just described happens to a lot of marketers. I'm writing this training because I was able to overcome it. This is crucial. You have to target the right client. It all boils down to segmentation. Blow this and you are going to put yourself in a tough spot. Unlock the power of segmentation so that you can tap into high-ticket sales. The great thing about the issues that I raised in video 2 is that, for the most part, they beg their solution. In other words, you just need to look at the problem and connect the dots. The solution basically comes at you. If you are unaware of the different types of internet users, you can easily find out. You can easily check the segments of buyers or potential buyers in your niche. You can also look at your statistics, or you can research your competitors and see their strategies in attracting potential buyers who are ready to buy. Regardless of how you do it, it all leads back to the same place. It all leads to segmentation. You have to master this. You have to figure this out. Otherwise, you won't get those high-ticket sales. They're just not going to happen. What is a high-ticket sale anyway? Before I go any further, I want to nail down some definitions. I know you probably already have some sort of understanding as to what high-ticket sales mean. I can also guarantee that your definition is a little bit off. I'm not saying that you're flat out wrong. I'm just saying that it's slightly off. Most marketers define high-ticket sales as products and services that cost at least 3 figures, if not 4. Once you start selling products or services that cost several $100s or thousands of dollars, you can safely say that you are selling high-ticket sale items. But this is just part of the picture. You cannot stop here. If you do, your high-ticket sales strategy is going to be very shallow and ultimately self-defeating. What do I mean by that? Well, if you know that each item you sell in your niche can get you $5,000, it's very easy to build a business that is geared towards just getting that first and only sale. You put in a lot of work, you burn through a lot of time to get that $5,000. Once you get that sale, it's too easy for you to think that this is a one-time sale. You can easily be forgiven for thinking that way because that's how most marketers think. It's a one-time, big-time kind of affair. This is too bad. And this is also the reason why a lot of marketers end up failing later on. The key to high-ticket sales. The key to high-ticket sales involves 2 very powerful components. They impact what you do before and after the high-ticket sale event. If you're clueless about this strategy, you'll be left in the sad position of constantly working to get new customers so you can get them to sign on the dotted line and give you hundreds, if not thousands of dollars with that one sale. The problem is, they're gone after the deal. They may not have been all that happy, but they may not be so unhappy that they demand a refund. Regardless of how you play it, it's still a one-time, big-time kind of situation. This is a tremendous lost opportunity because when you are scaling up or you're ramping up your relationship with that prospect to get them to buy that high-ticket sale item or service, you are presented with a tremendous amount of opportunities. After they enter their credit card information and they go through with the sale, you're given another opportunity. Think in big picture terms. The secret to high-ticket sales is sustainability. This has nothing to do with the one-time, big-time mindset. Get that idea out of your head. If that's how you think, you are playing this game to lose. To win in the high-ticket sales game, you have to take care of what the customer goes through before the sale, and you have to have a plan for what happens after the sale. Build a solid brand first, and then get them to upscale. A lot of people who try to sell high-ticket sales items basically think, more like hoping and wishing, that when prospects get enough information, they will finally decide to spend thousands of dollars. It doesn't work that way. Do you understand what you're requiring of the customer? If you're like most customers, it's hard enough for you to buy something that is worth $50 to $100. You would need to see the brand several times. You would need to feel assured about the brand and that the people behind it are not going to rip you off. You probably would expect to hear enough about the brand's products for you to think that this brand or product line is legit. This is what you would expect, at a minimum, as a responsible consumer. The bottom line is, you're not going to buy something that costs hundreds, if not thousands of dollars on a whim. This is not an impulse buy. If you're like most consumers in the United States, a purchase of thousands of dollars is going to set you back quite a bit in terms of your household budget. This is why high-ticket sales marketers set up a scaling relationship with the customer. They go through different types of information to build trust, and then they are sold packages that scale up, depending on need and familiarity. This then culminates or climaxes with the big-ticket sale. At that point, it wouldn't feel like that much of a jump. Each step of the way, you have demonstrated the value your brand brings to the table. Even if you're an affiliate marketer selling somebody else's product, you earn your high-ticket sales customers' trust by giving them the right solution at the right time, at the right stage of their relationship with you. Case study. I handled the marketing campaign for a company that provided high-value and high-cost MBA admission services to wealthy overseas clients. That niche's target audience are very busy professionals. They don't have much time, and that's why they're ready, willing and eager to pay thousands of dollars at a time for services that they need to get into the world's elite business schools. The first thing that these people are looking for is to determine whether you know what you're talking about. This means that you have to deliver information that establishes three things very quickly. First, you give information that filters your audience members. My target audience members are people looking to go to school abroad for an advanced degree. I don't waste time with why you should get an MBA. I don't waste time with how an MBA can improve your career. My target customers already know the answer. Instead, I wrote about the elite programs out there and how international students can cope with the system and how this leads to networks or contacts. Once I get their attention, they quickly know what I'm talking about because I mentioned statistics. I provided the kind of charts that you would expect in a business report. I speak their language. This builds trust and authority. I would then break down Chinese students' needs compared to other students with a special focus on professionals. They then go through a process where they see how confusing and how potentially fatal certain mistakes in this process can be. They get scared. Long story short, they buy product after product as their trust scales up. This culminates with the full customized one-to-one package offered by the back-end service I was promoting. That's when the prospect steps up to the $5,000 or $7,500 package. At this point, the price tag is no longer an issue. How come? I walked them through the process where they got so scared about dropping the ball or making a small mistake that they buy insurance. That's why I was able to convert these people like clockwork. Know the big picture. Understand that high-ticket sales require the right system. You have to filter them properly. You have to scale them up in terms of their purchases. Here's the secret. At first, get them to pay $1. That's how you separate the simple information seekers from actual potential buyers. Now let's be clear, you're not going to get rich from $1 sales. Once you have people transferred over to your buyer's mailing list, you have to continue scaling them up and filtering them until you get to your target audience. These are people who are willing to pay a lot of money because they can see the value of whatever it is you're offering, and they have a tremendous sense of urgency. Either they need to buy right now because there's some sort of deadline that's about to pass, or they have completely given up on doing it themselves or having it done locally or tapping their own network. You have them eating at the palm of your hands. The big picture also includes what happens next. Now that you've gotten somebody to pay $1,000 to $5,000 or several $100s or whatever it is, don't stop. MBA students from China, who are often sons and daughters of multimillionaires, have needs once they get to Canada, Europe, or the United States. Even when they're in the MBA program, they would also have needs. This is crucial because you cannot drop the ball here. It's very tempting to think, I've already got several $1,000s from this list member. Why should I even bother about what happens next? Here's the simple answer. The cheapest and most lucrative form of business you will ever get is repeat business. Let me repeat that. The cheapest and most lucrative income you will make is from repeat business. These people already know what you're capable of. They already trust you enough to spend big money. Now is not the time to drop the ball and forget about them. They still have needs. In my case, they would need a place to stay. They would need job placement services. They would need networking services. In some cases, they need life coaching. I can go on and on. You have to look at your customers the same way. Just because you have converted them already within the main niche of your business, it does not mean that all their other needs go away. There are many related niches as well. In my case, visa assistance and immigration legal services were the natural extension of the service I provided my customers. You have to think along these lines, and if you do, your list goes up in value over time. The more your relationship with your customer base matures, the more valuable it becomes. What started out as a $1 sale quickly turns into a sale of a few dozen dollars, which then leads to several $100s worth of sales, and then the big one, the $5,000 or even the $7,000 commitment. After that, believe it or not, lies even more money. It costs several $1,000s to retain an immigration attorney. Helping someone get settled in certain parts of the world can result in commissions to the tune of several $100s. Do the math. Think long term. Think in terms of relationship. The secret, filtering. If I wasn't clear yet, let me just break it down. Your job is to filter your prospects as quickly and as cleanly as possible. Separate information seekers from potential buyers. This is where your $1 product comes in. You then separate low-value buyers from intermediate or long-term high-value buyers. These are people who are willing to buy immediately, but they will remain stuck at a certain low price. You can monetize these people by selling a book or an online course. You can safely segregate them in another mailing list. You can still make money off of these people, but please understand that there's going to be a ceiling. They are never going to level up like your big-time clients. For your big-time clients, think of the long-term, high-value, high-ticket funnel that I described above. The key secret you need to keep in mind: you must have a means of constantly communicating with higher-value clients. This is the key. Therefore, I insist that you build not just one mailing list, but several. Your mailing list must be segmented based on how quickly somebody wants to buy and the value of the things they want to buy. For everybody else, and I'm talking about information seekers who just don't want to spend money, you can set them up with a fairly short autoresponder series. If they don't convert by the 6th email or the 8th email, cut them from your list. Depending on your mailing list service provider, there's no need for you to burn a hole through your pocket supporting list squatters. Identify them and quickly delete them. For everybody else, work on converting them and pushing them higher and higher in the value chain. This is how you create a consistent flow of high-ticket sales. In fact, if you play your cards right, based on the system that I've described above, your mailing list goes up in value over time. The more mature your relationship becomes with your customer base, the more they trust you, and the more they're willing to buy a wide range of directly related and indirectly related products and merchandise. Get inside the high-ticket sale buyer's mindset. A lot of marketers simply do not understand the information that I share in this video. They think that people are robots. They think that generating an online sale is simply all about getting the right product in front of the right eyeballs and nothing else. I'm sorry to break this to you, but there's a lot of psychology at play. The bottom line is, if you want to convert high-ticket sales prospects, you have to think like them. You can't look at the situation purely from your perspective. Let's face it, your perspective is actually simple and straightforward. You want to make money. I get that. Everybody gets that. Who doesn't want to make money? But that's not the issue. The issue is, how do you get your high-ticket sales prospects to separate with their hard-earned cash? Believe me, that's a lot of cash that they're going to be separating themselves from, so you better give them a good reason. Unfortunately, it's very hard to get that reason if you don't think like them. The first step is to choose to think like them. People are not rational. The first thing that you need to wrap your mind around is this simple fact. When people make buying decisions, it's usually not rational. It's easy to think that this only happens within the context of impulse buying. For example, if you go on Amazon Kindle and there's a book that sells for 99 cents, it doesn't really take much thinking because you're really not losing anything. It's 99 cents. If you make the minimum wage in the United States of $7.50 per hour, that's less than 10 minutes of work for 99 cents. It's an afterthought. It's an impulse buy. The problem is, as you go up the cost ladder, it becomes tempting to think that people are not buying impulsively. Get that idea out of your head. The truth is, it's very obvious when somebody's buying something priced at 99 cents compared to something that's priced at $9,000. The reality is, they are operating within the same realm. I am, of course, talking about emotions. In a fairly recent study, researchers asked buyers why they made the decision that they made. They were also asked to fill out a questionnaire right before they bought. According to this study, when people came to their buying decision, they acted out of impulse. But when it comes time to explain why they did what they did, they came up with all sorts of reasonable-sounding explanations and justifications. The study's conclusion is unmistakable. People are based on impulse, read emotion, and then they justify it later on. High-ticket sales prospects are no different from people buying a pack of gum that is worth a few pennies. It's all about emotion. People want to be made to feel special. Knowing the information you have, when you try to get into your high-ticket sales customer's mindset, you have to ask yourself, how do I make this person feel special in this context? Of course, somebody who is paying $10 for something feels special in a certain way that is quite different from somebody spending $10,000. That person spending $10,000 also needs to feel special, but it has to be presented in a different way. Tap the power of exclusivity. Now that I've established that people do make buying decisions based on emotion, the next question to ask is, what kind of emotion? How do you present the emotional impulse? Thankfully, the answer is pretty straightforward. When somebody buys a high-end Mercedes-Benz, they're not just buying a car. They're not just buying something that proclaims to their neighborhood that they have money. No, they're doing something else. They're not just looking to satisfy a need that everybody else has. All of us need to get from point A to point B, but we all have different ways of meeting that need. Depending on our income, depending on how our city is set up, and depending on our culture and other factors, we can choose different options. Some people can take the bus, others can take the train, others would bike, other people would walk. Some would buy a low-end car, others would buy a mid-range vehicle, and even others would buy top-of-the-line luxury vehicles. Same need, different responses. When we're talking about high-ticket sales buyers' mindsets, understand that they have emotional needs that they need to satisfy in a different way. They're looking to satisfy a need that everybody has in a way that not everybody can do. This is where the idea of luxury, exclusivity, and specialness come in. When you are able to earn enough money to buy a high-end Mercedes, BMW, Rolls-Royce, or an Italian sports car, you are saying to yourself, I am special. I am rewarding myself with something that satisfies a need that everybody has. But I satisfy it in a way that is very different from how everybody else can satisfy the same need. This is the power of exclusivity. You have to wrap your mind around this concept because high-ticket sales buyers must be convinced that your solution is a way of satisfying a need that other people cannot readily use. Make them feel that they are getting something above and beyond what everybody's getting. High-end sales targets don't want what everybody else is getting. Now, we know at the end of the day that that's precisely what they're getting. A car is a car. It doesn't matter whether it has a Porsche logo or a Kia or a Hyundai logo. It doesn't matter if your car says Hyundai Eon in the back or has that BMW logo. A car is a car. It gets you from point A to point B. But when you highlight the luxury, the attention to detail, the professionalism of whatever product or service you are pushing, you satisfy a very important emotional need. High-ticket sales buyers are psychologically looking for something above and beyond what everybody gets. That's how you can get somebody to pay tens of thousands of dollars or more for a car. These are not egotists. They're not saying to themselves, I'm better than everybody else. No. In most cases, these people are looking to reward themselves, or they're simply looking for the highest value because they don't have the time to screw around when something goes wrong. This is especially true when you're selling services. The MBA assistance program that I use as a case study in the previous video catered to overseas professionals who cannot afford to drop the ball. That's why they pay top dollar. Get inside your customer's mindset. Look at the sales process and the sales funnel system from their perspective. Get this wrong, and you will end up building a high-ticket sales funnel that somehow, some way doesn't quite work. I'm not saying that you're not going to make a few $1,000s here and there. What I am saying is that you are not building an optimal system. It's 90% there, but it just doesn't produce the outcome that you had hoped for. Conducting a high-ticket sales campaign the hard way. To learn the ropes about anything, it's usually recommended to learn things the hard way. In other words, you go through a whole checklist of items, you pay your dues, and then after you are very familiar with the process, you start optimizing. You keep that up until you come up with a streamlined system that is very different from what you started with. At that later stage, you are able to do things faster, more efficiently, and at less cost. Still, you have to go through the initial stages and basically stumble around, make a lot of mistakes, and feel your way in the dark, so to speak. This is how most people pay their dues. Unfortunately, this is also doing things the hard way. I'd be irresponsible if I did not go through video 7 and video 8 with you, because this is how high-ticket sales campaigns are normally done. Unfortunately, for the vast majority of marketers who go through this process, they get chewed up and spit out. They end up failing. Still, I need to walk you through this before I reveal the secret sauce in video 8. To learn the ropes, you have to pay your dues and do things the hard way. Step number 1, pick a high-value niche. Go to Google Keyword Planner tool and look up the keywords related to your niche. Look up their cost per click value. This should give you a general idea of the value of that space. Now, please review the discussion in video 1 regarding niche valuation. Make sure that the niche you pick is a high-ticket sales niche. Often, things are not what they appear. Step number 2, develop a high-value brand in your target niche. Developing a high-value brand takes quite a bit of work and time. You must put out tremendous amounts of content and check the actual behavior of people interacting with your content. Do they click through deeper and deeper into the guts of your website? Or do they just click through a piece of content and then they bounce right back out? To develop a high-value brand, you must first focus on your winners. These are pieces of content that attract a lot of traffic from the internet. These are pieces of content that push people deeper and deeper into your site. Here's the secret. To build a high-value brand, you must focus on content that engages your target audience members. It's very tempting to think that this is just a matter of popularity. When you look at your statistics, whether it is Google Analytics or StatCounter, it's tempting to just go with the pages that get a lot of traffic. But you have to dig deeper than that. You have to look at where people go. Are people going to content that speak to the needs of high-ticket sales customers? Or are people just getting information, drilling deep into your site for more basic information, and then leaving? It should be obvious to you which you should focus on. Do not just replicate your strongest pages. If those strong pages are not about high-ticket sales, ditch them. Focus on pages that have a high-ticket value or appeal to high-ticket value customers and are also popular. Build on your strengths. Scrap the rest. Step number 3. Distribute content that filters your customer segments. When you build different pieces of content on your website, you use this to filter people based on whether they are your target high-ticket sales audience members or not. You should do the same with content that you share or post throughout the rest of the internet. At this point, I'm assuming that you already know the basics of content marketing. You share content in the form of comments, blog posts on third-party platforms, as well as logger posts and curated material on social media platforms. All of these condition people to go to your website. Your content on your website then serves to filter them and eventually convert them. That's how you play the game, or at least that's how you should play the game. It's really important to make sure that even that outer ring of content in your high-ticket sales niche filters your customer segments. In other words, you don't want tire kickers or people who are just looking for information but are unwilling to pay anything to even hit your website. Why bother? They're a waste of time. I know that sounds rude, but it's also the truth. Because you're trying to create a system that converts online traffic into a lot of money, you do not have the time to mess around with volume traffic that doesn't go anywhere. This is why you need to distribute content that filters your customer segments based on these other platforms. This way, only people who are truly willing to pay good money will end up on your site. Step number 4, make it easy for your audience to find you and keep in constant contact with you. When I say your audience, I'm talking about high-ticket salespeople. I'm not talking about generic information seekers. Forget those. Make it easy for them to find you. This means create social media profiles. Identify hashtags on Instagram, Pinterest, and Twitter that are directly related to your niche. Filter people on those platforms, and then get them to go to your website and convert them. In this context, conversion means getting them on your mailing list. This is how you keep in constant contact with them. Step number 5, send high-value content that segments your mailing list. Send high-value content to your mailing list, and then allow people to segregate themselves by joining sublists. At this point, there will still be people who are just looking for information. They will be in the minority, but if you don't manage this properly at this level, they're going to take a lot of your resources. You don't want list squatters because services like Aweber charge you money for the total size of your mailing list, regardless of whether they buy or not and regardless of how active your list is. What if a significant chunk of your mailing list are just squatters? You're losing money monthly. Don't do it. This is why you need to send high-value content to your mailing list and get people to sign up to a sub-mailing list. When people do this, you know that they are looking for high-ticket sales material. They are people who are serious about eventually spending a lot of money. For everybody else, you can purge them off your list. Step number 6, filter your filtered list between buyers and tire kickers. This is where the rubber meets the road. Send a $1 offer for some sort of basic PDF report you made. You may even compile some blog posts and sell it in a $1 PDF. However you want to do it, segment people in your high-value list into 2 camps, buyers and information seekers. Give the information seekers one final chance by setting them up with a 5-day update program. If they don't convert to your buyers list within that 5 days, they get dropped from your lists totally. The key here is to get rid of tire kickers and information or freebie seekers using low-friction sales. Step number 7. Scale up your filtration with increased friction. Friction in this context involves people spending increasing amounts of money. Your buyer's list is tried and proven only to the point that these people are willing to pay $1 to be on that list. You should then further segment that list by sending opportunities that cost more. Maybe you go from $1 to $20, then from $20 to a couple of $100. Keep ramping it up and prepare them for the big sale. Just repeat the process I have outlined above to get them ready for that big sale. Don't drop the big sale offer in the beginning. You can use it as a redirect offer. When people buy, they get a confirmation page, and that confirmation page would have that big offer, or at least talk up the big offer. This is how you play the game, where the longer people stay on your mailing list, the more value you build. Step number 8, give your buyers list what they're looking for. Your buyers list members are basically looking for assurance. Give it to them in the form of high-value content. Give it to them, believe it or not, in the form of filtering using ever-increasing sales pages. And take good care of them. This means making yourself available in terms of customer support. You build a community around your buyers list. The shortcut to high-ticket sales. In video 7, I stepped you through the process most marketers go through to master high-ticket sales. As you can tell, it's not exactly smooth nor easy. However, for the longest time, this is how most marketers learned. They had to learn the hard way. They had to pay their dues. In fact, the process is so hard that the vast majority of people who tried their hand at high-ticket sales end up dropping out or settling for mediocre results. It's fairly rare for somebody to become really successful doing things the hard way. Still, after some time, a significant portion of people would graduate from getting mediocre results to getting better results, but it can take quite a bit of time. In fact, for too many people, it takes too much time and involves too much experimentation. No wonder too many marketers just give up. Thankfully, there's a better way. It's always a good idea to start out with high-ticket sales by learning the ropes. You have to learn how to do the basics. You have to learn how to sell online, how to find the right niche, and how to create content that would appeal to your customer base. You have to know the basics of segmenting your audience, so you know what to expect. Once you're familiar with all the different parts of online high-ticket sales, this is the point in time where you should start looking for a shortcut. Don't do it before this point. This is extremely important. You have to go through the process of learning high-ticket sales the traditional way. But once you have a good understanding of all the different moving parts and everything that's involved in the process, then and only then should you start thinking about shortcuts. Use these shortcuts to take your high-ticket sales marketing efforts to a whole new level. I share these shortcuts with you because it's too easy to get stuck. It's too easy to feel like you're just banging your head on the wall, and in frustration, you drop everything. A lot of people who try high-ticket sales or affiliate marketing in general go through this process. A lot of them never come back. A lot of them just quit. I don't want you to be one of those people. While it is important to learn how everything fits together and to have a general understanding of how to sell online, you can't just stay there. You can't continue to stubbornly do things the hard way when there is an easier way available to you. What is this secret? What is the shortcut? It's very simple. Reverse engineer existing high-ticket players in your target niche. In other words, find your competitors, figure out which one of them is successful, and do what they're doing by fitting it into what you know about high-ticket sales. Seems pretty straightforward, right? It is. First, you need to find your most successful competitors. This is pretty straightforward. At this point, you already know what keywords are related to your niche. Enter them in Google. Find as many competing websites as possible. Next, enter the domain names of your competitors into tools like Alexa Site Info. Alexa will give you a rough ranking of your competitor. This ranking should give you a general idea of how well they do in terms of traffic. But you shouldn't stop with Alexa. You should also take your competitor's domain and plug them into SEMrush. SEMrush will tell you how well they're doing when it comes to SEO. Putting all these data sets together, you can get a good idea which of your competitors are getting a lot of traffic in your niche and which ones are struggling. Learn from the winners. Filter your list and focus on a fairly small number of competitors. These should be the runaway winners of your niche. They should leave pretty much everybody else in the dust as far as traffic goes. Again, we're estimating traffic based on Alexa score and search engine visibility provided by tools like SEMrush.com. What to look for? Now that you have your shortlist going, study the following features of your competitors. Their content strategy. What do they write about? What do they focus on? What themes keep cropping up among all your major competitors? Their ads. What kind of ads do they normally show? Do they push services or merchandise or both? Are these ads for high-ticket items, or do they mix in low-ticket items? Do they openly advertise their $1 or buyer list products? Their mailing list strategy. Do they have a mailing list? Join their mailing list and see if they segment or filter their main mailing list into smaller lists. Do they use $1 items to create buyers lists? Their ad designs. Pay attention to the text of their ads as well as their formatting. Pay attention to whatever graphics they use in their ads. Their branding efforts. Do they bother to create a brand? Do they actively engage their site visitors in crafting their brand message? Do they talk about brand values? Their social media presence. By social media, I am referring to the broadest definition of that term. Look for your competitors on forums, Facebook groups, Facebook pages, Facebook comments, Pinterest, Instagram, Twitter, SlideShare, and everywhere else. This should give you a fairly clear view of their traffic sources. Their SEO footprint. Enter the domains of your competitors in SEMrush and look for their backlinks. This should give you a fairly clear idea of just how optimized they are for search engines. Make sure you go through the list above. Don't skip an item. You need to reverse engineer all your competitors using the list above so you can be properly informed as to how they got to the position they're in. This information will also function as a roadmap for your marketing efforts later on. Fine-tune your reverse engineered brand. Now that you have reverse engineered your competitors and you have examined certain elements of their website as well as marketing strategy critically, the next step is to look for patterns. Look for the industry standard. When you look at the content that your competitors publish, as well as their ads, their brand values, and their site layout among others, a certain pattern should emerge. There should be some sort of pattern that you would see that pretty much unites all your competitors. Their sites may look very different from each other, and their content is obviously different enough. But when you look at the themes, topics, and overall design philosophy they follow, many of those sites actually share quite a bit of similarity. Pay attention to this. Use this as industry standard of your high-ticket sales niche. How come? They wouldn't have that commonality if it doesn't work at some level or another. There's a reason why photography services, legal services, certain types of medical specialties share similar design and content patterns. The reason, of course, lies in customer expectation. When customers see that service providers have websites designed a certain way, that's what they will look for. At the back of their mind, that is the industry standard. Look for this industry standard. Your own website, as well as marketing materials, content, and editorial policies and strategies should mirror the industry standard. In other words, when people end up at your website from search engines or social media or other traffic sources, they're not in for a shock. If they have been looking for the kind of merchandise or service you are advertising or promoting, they probably look at other websites pushing the same things. When they end up on your website, they know what to expect because your website speaks the same graphical and content language as your competitors. This is the industry standard. You gain instant credibility and legitimacy when your website appears to be in the mainstream of your niche. The industry standard can only go so far. Please understand that when you adopt the industry standard, all you are doing is trying to get a head start. Compare this with starting from scratch. You don't know what you're doing. You don't have an idea. So you come up with something new, but that new design may be just so disconcerting and so random to people used to your niche that they may either ignore you or fail to take you seriously. None of these situations is good. This is why you need to get a head start by adopting the industry standard look and content policy. But after that, you have to fine-tune your specific look and content based on how your website actually performs. If you notice that the vast majority of your traffic is excited about a certain type of content, and pages containing the content tend to get more traffic. If you notice this pattern, then shift your content strategy towards that type of content. Drill deep. Become the established online authority for that type of content. This is how you customize your brand based on your actual experience. You're not going to stay with the industry standard. The industry standard just gives you a starting point. From this point onwards, you have to look at the actual performance of your website to help you chart its future. Build up your base and constantly ask for feedback. To build a solid brand in any high-ticket niche, you cannot insulate yourself from your audience. You have to create a community around your content. Look at them as your base. Look at them as your partners. Constantly engage with them. Constantly ask for feedback. Make them feel that they are co-creators of your website. Constantly optimize key parts of your online presence. On your website, constantly optimize your affiliate offers, product offers, content strategy, and mailing list recruitment strategy. Keep mixing it up and look at what works. The problem is if you believe that you just need to build a website and keep it the same way forever, you're not doing yourself any favors. You're putting yourself at a serious competitive disadvantage because, let's face it, most people do not do things right the first time around. There's always room for improvement. You can always optimize for greater results. This is why you have to constantly optimize the different key elements of your online presence. Are you offering the right products? Are you scaling your mailing list correctly? Are you filtering people correctly? Are you offering the right content? Are you recruiting people to your mailing list in the most optimal way? There's just so many places you can improve. Don't fall for the trap of thinking that your website is some sort of take it or leave it proposition. Let me tell you, if that's your mindset, most people would leave you. How would you know? Look at your bounce rate. If, for whatever reason, people do not detect the information or experience they are looking for, they're not shy, they will bounce out quickly. And not only would this hurt you as far as Google is concerned, it can also erode your brand's value on the internet. When people start to talk about your brand, it's very easy for them to sweep you under the rug and dismiss you as an afterthought. You don't want that to happen. What is the secret? Keep reading. Your secret sauce. Community. If you have read any kind of content marketing book, or if you have done any kind of affiliate marketing and researched what affiliate marketing specialists do, you probably have come across the word community several times. Community is just like the word love. People use it all the time, but the more they use it, the more it loses its meaning. I know it's sad, but it's true. You can't look at community as some buzzword. You can't look at it as just another marketing concept. It has to be real for your specific case. Unfortunately, nobody can do this for you. You have to jump in there. You have to engage with your community members and get them to become emotionally invested in your brand. How do you do this? Well, send updates where you ask people for their opinion and you give out freebies. Don't get nervous. Just because you're giving out freebies doesn't mean that you're giving out money. Believe it or not, in marketing survey after marketing survey, people respond less to dollar incentives than they do to moral or symbolic incentives. Believe it or not, simply giving out a graphic member of the month or mentioning their name in your next email update is enough to incentivize people. Regardless, you have to give them incentives for participating. Make them feel that they matter. I have seen many mailing lists give out updates where they mentioned everybody who would send in any feedback. Even if it's the most ridiculous feedback, even if it doesn't really add anything to the discussion, they still get acknowledgement and recognition. It is no surprise that those mailing lists tend to be successful because a lot of people on the list feel that they matter. They feel that they are being listened to. They feel that they are being validated by the brand that they support. If you are on mailing lists and one mailing list treats you like a complete nobody and you feel anonymous, while the other list mentions you and runs promotions or collaboration campaigns that excite you, which list would you rather stay on? Which list email would you rather check? Which list would you talk about with your friends? It's a no-brainer. When people feel like a number, or they are made to feel like they are another face in the crowd, they're not all that excited. They won't be motivated to become your brand's evangelist or provide testimonials for your brand. Please understand that this is crucial. Since you are dealing with high-ticket sales that involves very selective and very discriminating audiences, a little bit of fan support helps. In fact, it can mean the difference between perpetually struggling and becoming one of the top brands in your niche. Tap your fan base. They are not just your customers, they are your potential fans. Turn them from content readers and list squatters to your pumped up, energized, and enthusiastic fan base. Not only are these people more willing to buy whatever it is you're pushing, but they're also more willing to spread the word about your brand. How come? They feel emotionally invested. They feel connected. At some level or another, they are under the impression that they have skin in the game. Grow your brand around your community. This is probably the hardest part of this process because a lot of marketers are content to stop at the point immediately above this section. But if you truly want to take your brand to the next level, evolve your brand around your fan base instead of the other way around. This is the secret to sustainable brand power. If you want your mailing list to grow in value over time, build it around the needs of the people on your list. Hold contests, hold AMA sessions, hold photo contribution contests or projects. Ask individual members if you can turn them into case studies. These are just some of the many ideas that you can use to build community. Remember, your list is not just a collection of people who have given you their legal consent to send them messages. Your list is a relationship. Treat it like one, picking the right high-ticket service or product to sell. Prior to this point, I've helped you put together an online conversion platform. I have helped you put together, using the power of reverse engineering, the website and messaging platform that you need to turn your traffic into cold hard cash. The next step is to figure out how to sell the right product or service to your list. Here are the steps that I follow. When you start segmenting users, don't focus on sales. The first thing that you need to do is when you are building your website and you're building your mailing list, do not focus on sales. Focus instead on segmentation. This means you have to create a system where your users will segregate themselves. The name of the game is to get rid of information seekers who don't want to buy anything. That kind of traffic is useless to you. You set up $1 items or cheap services. The key is to get as many of your list members to sign up for these so you can then qualify them for additional sales later on. Optimize your messaging to maximize trust. Pay attention to your open rates. Do you notice that some of your emails get a lot more responses and opens than others? Do you notice that some of your emails do not get that many opens, but they get a lot of clicks? You have to slice and dice this data so you can come up with a great combination of high open rates and high internal email click rates. It may seem impossible at this point, but the more experiments you do by focusing on your most successful emails, the closer you will get to that great combination. Pay close attention to what your community demands. Give your community members an opportunity to tell you what to do. You should do this on your social media accounts. You should do this on your website. You should do this through a specially designed, incentivized engagement system for your email. Regardless of how you do it, you need to do it. You need to ask them what it is they would like in terms of content, promotions, products, services. Please understand that there's a big difference between what people say and what they do. You have to always cross-reference whatever suggestions and recommendations you get from your customer base with their actual behavior. If they keep saying that they like a certain type of content, but you notice that when they go to pages that contain that content, they bounce out, they may be telling you something else. They may be telling you that you may be publishing a certain type of content, but it's not that precise content that they're looking for. This is a serious hint that you should pay close attention to. You should investigate it further. They may be looking for some sub-niche or some sort of specialized content that is closely related to the content you already have. That's why your pages have such a traffic pattern. It's not like people are not interested in the content. They are. They're clicking through, but they're not staying. This is where a little bit of engagement can go a long way. Think of it like some sort of detective story. Pick the most credible, yet highest value product or service you can offer. High ticket sales is all about offering the very best. People are not looking for second best. People are not looking for a bargain, if you think about it hard enough. They're looking for the best. This means that you have to engage with your community long enough for them to tell you what you should be selling. Believe it or not, your list members will tell you. They know what they're looking for. In the case study that I mentioned about the MBA program, I was told which graduate programs are the most popular in China. When I took action on that and changed the direction of my content production and editorial policy, my conversion rates went through the roof. Your community eagerly wants to tell you the answers you need to make more money. The only question is, are you willing to stop and listen? Think beyond commission payouts. As I have mentioned in an earlier video, you have to look at the big picture of what you're doing. It's very easy to get blinded by high commission rates. It's very easy just to zero in on that point where you sell a $5,000 service or merchandise package to your customer off your mailing list. It's very easy to just focus on that and then move on to the next customer. If you're doing that, you're wasting your list. I can't emphasize that enough. That person who bought $5,000 of services or products from you can easily do the same if you convince them of another product or service in the future. That's how you make real money with your list. Each and every name on that list wants a relationship with you. Don't blow that relationship using a one-time, big-time mindset. If you think they benefited you by buying a $5,000 item, you haven't seen anything yet. That's just the beginning of the relationship. Keep building that trust. Focus on building and maintaining credibility with your high-ticket sales client base. Treat each and every one of those names like they are made of gold.